Around here, we don't usually have fog in November. This time of year, we usually have snow. But the nights have been warmer lately, so round midnight, the fog starts rolling in. I like fog. I find it atmospheric. No pun intended. It makes me think of Poe, of Sherlock Holmes, and it makes me think of Jack the Ripper. Okay, maybe I'm strange. I found it romantic. Okay, I am strange. But I don't think I'll be walking in it anymore. At least not at night. At least not for a while. My house backs onto a big park, and sometimes I would walk out into the middle of it and simply look up at the stars. And so last night, when the fog rolled in, I went out to lose myself in it. From our street, a narrow gravel passage led into the park, where there was a kids' play area, some poplar trees, picnic tables, and benches, all bordered by a major road, which is little traveled after midnight, which meant that traffic wouldn't spoil the illusion of being lost in the fog. I set out, the fog dampening the usual night sounds, until I got to the gravel path, which crunched, crunched, crunched softly under my feet. Some distance into the field, I stopped to look up. Yup, no stars tonight. But as I stood there alone, I heard a gentle crunch, crunch, crunch coming from behind me. Someone else was on the path. I took a quick glance over my shoulder, but all I could see was the dark silhouette of a human being. The only detail I could make out was that they appeared to be wearing a hat. The path branched off into two separate directions, and I took the right fork, which ran past the kids' park, as it was the shortest route to the road, where there was enhanced street lighting, and where I might better see the person behind me. As I passed the play area, I took another look and found the figure was gaining on me, although I still couldn't see them clearly in the fog. But I caught a glimpse of something, of two white staring eyes, which flashed momentarily like a pair of LED lights. At the road, I had a choice: left towards an area of houses, or right towards the traffic lights of a busy intersection. I chose right, to better get away from the person following me, as I now felt certain they were indeed following me. Now, I had no logical reason for thinking this person would harm me, but I felt an intuitive wave of fear which told me to avoid them at all costs. I had no plan for when I got to the lights, but I could see a Tim Hortons on the far side of the intersection. Was it open 24 hours? I wasn't sure, but I decided to head for it and hopefully shake the dark figure. I never found out if Tim's was open or not, for ahead of me, on the sidewalk, between me and the intersection, there was a second person, a second dark figure, and this time I could see they were definitely wearing a hat, a fedora. A second wave of fear washed over me, and all my instincts for self-preservation screamed, "Run!" I crossed the street, grateful there was no traffic, then suddenly realized that what I wanted, what I needed, was more traffic. For if these individuals really meant to hurt me, they wouldn't want any witnesses. I had no sooner crossed over, however, when I saw the first dark figure crossing the road to cut me off, while the second man came up behind me. They had me trapped. And then I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, the laboring diesels of an approaching bus. It was the university, number 7, making its last run. Good old number 7. I was too far from the nearest bus stop and wouldn't have made it before the dark strangers could have accosted me, so I yelled and frantically waved my arms back and forth as the bus lumbered past. And, miracle of miracles, it actually stopped, and I had the correct change in the pocket of my jeans. I was the only passenger on the bus. I guess the driver stopped for me either because he was lonely or from a desire to show that people do indeed use local transit. I took a seat at the rear and glanced out the back window. 3 dark figures, 3 men in black with identical black fedoras, were chasing after the bus and catching up to it, their eyes flashing like brilliant LED lights. "Hey, bus driver, don't hit any red lights," I prayed. And luckily enough, we didn't. But the dark trio continued to run behind us. The bus stopped at a transfer point behind a major shopping plaza, and as I exited, I could see the men lingering on the other side of the street. The bus stop was brightly lit, and I began to wonder if these figures of darkness were afraid of the light. I went around to the parking lot in front of the plaza, which was brilliantly lit. But I had a couple of bad moments when I had to walk through a dark alley to get there. And once on the other side, I turned back and caught white light, white eyes looking back at me. The 3 men had crossed over and into the alley, and as I looked towards them, I experienced an overwhelming sense of hatred. Hatred so strong, I felt nauseous and actually staggered. I had gone to the front of the plaza in search of a cab. I knew that taxi drivers congregated there to wait for their next calls. I told the driver I engaged to take a specific route back to my house. It wasn't the most direct route, but it was the one with the best lighting. He was happy to have a fare. Business was slow due to the fog. As we drove home, I hoped I'd remembered to turn on the light above the side door, and thankfully I had, as it filled the area with light. I went straight inside and locked and bolted the doors, but as I crossed the living room, I saw a flash of white light coming from the street. The dark figures were prowling through the fog, although I noticed they tried to avoid the pools of diffused light cast by the street lamps. I saw one of them turn up my driveway and head towards the house. I didn't know if it could see me or not, but I knew I wouldn't have time to run forward and close the drapes before it could come up to the window and look in. I headed for the bedroom where the drapes were drawn, and there I stayed until dawn, when the rising sun dissipated the fog. So, dear listeners, who or what were these mysterious figures who followed me through the fog? They were dressed in black, with fedoras, and had glowing white eyes. The men in black? Shadow people? The Hat Man? The multiple ghosts of Jack the Ripper? I did some searching on the net and came across the Dark Watchers of California, dark figures with hats and glowing eyes. I'm a long way from California, but I wonder. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and stay safe, stay subscribed, and ring the bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And Share this and any of my videos with anyone you please. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. Please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring cryptids such as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. And stay hungry. Till midnight. Cheers. And of course, please to remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. All my love to Mort and all my listeners in the UK. And man, it's hard to say gunpowder. This took me like 4 takes. It's no wonder everybody's forgotten. Cheers.